Incredibox Sprunki is yet another mod for the once wildly popular game Incredibox. We're familiar with all the characters, and some have always stood out as, well, a bit different from the rest. Probably the most mysterious one is Black, since, canonically, it's after his part that we enter the next phase where many characters meet their end. And not just any end. They're killed off in various brutal ways, especially Raddy and Kluker, though that's just my subjective take. However, some manage to survive, like Durple, Gray, Wenda, and a few others. This immediately raises a pressing question. Is there a way to save all the characters? And if so, how? Canonically, we know some survive. So we're left with two possible scenarios. The first theory is that there's actually no death at all in Incredibox Sprunki. According to the second theory, after the horrific events in their world, all the Sprunki somehow survive or regenerate. If some characters made it through the first phase, then maybe a few Sprunki found a way to hide from a crazed Wenda and the other killers, whose identities we don't fully know yet, but we're sure they exist. This suggests that the creator may have hinted that Sprunki aren't meant to die or suffer, even though, by the second phase, those lucky enough to survive the mass destruction look deeply shaken and terrified. If the creator really left us a hint that it's possible to save every single Sprunki, why not run with that theory? Let's explore the odds of actually saving all the Sprunki, and what that might look like if we succeed. Usually, after choosing Black with his mysterious hat, we end up in a place known as Hell. A phase that's made this mod so popular. Everyone at least once tries Incredibox Sprunki just to get a taste of this bizarre twist and understand what all the buzz is about. But besides the descent into the second phase, there's also an alternate path after selecting Black. One that lands us in a place that looks like the game's beginning, but a bit dimmer. Canonically, entering Hell turns Black into a creepy character, but in this version, he's far from scary. If anything, he looks quite sad about what seems like a failure. When players first encountered this setting, it raised a ton of questions. What's going on here? Where's Hell? Where are all the dead Sprunki? Even stranger, the haunting music still plays. Now we arrive at the climax and reveal the hero of this video, Xavier Pros. He created a mod that lets us experience an alternate reality of the second phase. This mod is proof of just how popular Incredibox Sprunki has become. People are now making mods for the mod. Let's compare a few characters from the original to their versions in this lighter mod. Starting with Oren, we remember that canonically, his body is torn apart and some organs were likely removed. However, in this alternative version, he's bandaged up and able to enjoy life again. Although that doesn't seem to be happening here. Raddy sparked the most curiosity for me. In the original, his entire muscle structure and skin are stripped from one side of his face, his body is torn, and most uniquely, he's the only one who's both dismembered and hung. But in this mod, we only see his bandaged head, raising the question, why are there no strangulation marks? This detail might lend support to the theory that death, as we understand it, doesn't exist in Incredibox Sprunki. The only harm that can come to Sprunki is through physical damage, like Brud's bites, Kluker's strikes, or blows to characters like Sky and Lime. But in this context, such attacks damage the body rather than taking life. After everything Raddy endured, survival chances should be slim since his destruction took place in stages. Drawing a real-world comparison, surviving a lost limb is possible, but without oxygen, survival chances drop to zero. This hints that in Sprunki's world, no matter how severe the physical damage, true death may not be in the cards. Let's return to the survival of the Sprunki. We see they're all alive and bandaged up again, meaning they're technically safe now. But if we compare their state before and after the first phase, there's an obvious shift in their attitudes. The Sprunki are no longer joyful and carefree. Genuine fear is etched onto their faces. Even Gray, who didn't change much in the second phase, now shows less anxiety on his face than before. And as many fans know, the main villain of all this horror is the now iconic Wenda, who looked the happiest of everyone in the second phase. In the alternate mod, she might still seem content, but in the first few seconds of her appearance, you can clearly see anger and frustration on her face. It's obvious this came from her failure to complete her cruel, twisted plan, with all the Sprunki surviving in the end. If we look at each character, it's clear everyone made it out alive. Even Pinki and Brood, who somehow survived their injuries. So, if you're a fan of happy endings, this alternate version of Incredibox Sprunki would definitely appeal to you. But as with all happy endings, there's a twist. Remember the music from the second phase? Now, compare to the Rescue mod. It's exactly the same. This detail suggests that, despite their physical survival, the characters still remember every torment they endured. A perfect ending isn't possible because, canonically, the characters have already been traumatized. Even if they're physically unharmed, their mental health is forever scarred. Some, like Durple, witnessed the horrors firsthand, and seeing what happened to Raddy or Sky, their psyches will never fully recover from the experience. But the fact that they were all saved is there, and there's no changing that. So let's dive into a few theories about how they might have been rescued and who could have helped them. One popular theory suggests that Black was actually the one who saved everyone. You might be wondering how he managed that if, in the original mod, he was the one who sent everyone to hell in the first place. There's a theory that Wenda, despite how ruthless she appears, may have been hypnotized by Black into committing the terrible acts we see in the second phase. In the original mod, it could be that Black, in a twist, became their savior. After we put on his hat, we see all the Sprunki alive. So maybe at some point, Wenda herself wanted to kill everyone, and Black stepped in, resisting and fighting her to stop the massacre. In that case, he might not appear upset, but rather exhausted. It's possible he wasn't working alone. Jevin is a likely ally, since he's always shown as calm. Maybe Durple and Gray contributed to the rescue, or perhaps even some Sprunki were secretly aiding Wenda. Interestingly, Simon stands out in the second phase when he transforms into a monster and, according to one theory, is the one who injured Brood. This suggests that Black and the others had to save the Sprunki not only from Wenda and other killers, but also from characters who turned monsters. Looking at Brood's bandaged body parts, it seems he didn't fully escape harm, receiving the same injuries from Simon as he did in the original storyline. There's also a theory that puts Wenda herself at the center. What if she genuinely wanted to kill all the Sprunki? In this version, unlike the original, maybe Wenda didn't have any allies or help in her mission, attempting the destruction all on her own. Could that be why her plan ultimately failed? We also know that Tunner possesses a weapon that led to his own injury in the second phase, with Wenda shooting him with it according to the canon. In the rescue mod, we see only a small patch on his hat, which raised eyebrows for some fans since we don't see what's under his hat. It sounds a bit humorous, but it's logical that his head would be bandaged like many others. More interesting to explore is Lime's case. Canonically, in the second phase, he loses his entire lower jaw. However, in this alternate version, there's no trace of this injury. And then there's Veneria, one of the creepiest characters in the second phase. In the rescue mod, there are no bandages or other signs of abuse on her, except for one striking detail. She has no eyes. In the original, something appears to grow from her eye sockets, causing her to lose her eyes. This brings us back to Simon, who turned into a monster and, as a result, survived. What if Veneria attempted something similar but wasn't as successful, effectively destroying herself in the process? In conclusion, I'd say this version of events feels pretty plausible, and we might actually have hope that our favorite Sprunki characters manage to survive and save themselves. What do you think about it? Did you enjoy this mod? Let me know in the comments below. Well, it's time to say goodbye. See you next time!